Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Regista Football Podcast. My name is Jack, one of your hosts. I'm always joined here by my good friend Ben. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing okay, Jack.
So, for anyone that doesn't know, we're recording this on Thursday after Arsenal have played Brentford. So, the somber demeanor is probably related to that. But we have a pretty packed show today. Go over for everyone rather, what we're going to be covering today, Ben.
Yeah. Today, going to go over the order of operations. So we're going to start off with our Premier League reviews, starting with Liverpool versus City, Arsenal versus Sunderland, Sunderland versus Liverpool, and then Arsenal versus Brentford. We're doing it in this way, even though it's not the actual way that the matches were played out, just because we want to do that comparison of Arsenal versus Sunderland and Sunderland versus Arsenal. It's really unique when you get to watch the same team, but with two different perspectives, and also in two different places. So we thought that'd be really fun to do. And then we're gonna end it with a little title race roundup, as well as a race for top five.
Awesome. Let's get into the first game then. So let's talk about Liverpool Manchester City. This game ended 2-1 in the end. I'd say the game itself was definitely a game of two halves, to use that cliche. To cut it short, like if you guys want to turn off right away, Liverpool again concede a goal in fucking stoppage time. Leads to another loss for Liverpool. At that point, it looked a bit more bleak, but we'll get into the more positive side after the Sunderland game. But Liverpool have tied for the most conceded stoppage time goals in a single season than anyone else. And the unfortunate thing is we're only in February. So not the best type of statistic you want to come out of that game with. But let me go into the Manchester City shape a little bit. Ben and I did watch this game together. We went to like a local Liverpool bar here, and it was pretty good, to be honest with you. Like I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll say. Actually, it was funny because we also watched the United game together at that
We did.
bar, and I felt like this one was a little bit like the vibes were a little better. I don't know if it was the audience and who was there, or I think it's honestly just the matchup and what was expected from this matchup compared to where Liverpool were when they played United at
Yeah.
Anfield, like just the place in the season.
Yeah, I definitely felt that too. To be fair, like I think some of the difference, at least for me, was down to where we were sat. But
Hmm.
I think, like I said, let's go into the City shape then. So defensively, Man City were pressing in like this diamond formation, specifically with the front four. I think the main reason they were doing that ultimately is to prevent Liverpool from playing into their pivot players and build up. And especially in that first half, you could see that pay off for them ultimately. I think Liverpool's build up in the first half was abysmal, to say the least. The other reason for this is that specific pressing structure creates like a lot of space in front of Liverpool's back line, meaning that if they can create like turnovers once the ball is played into midfield, they can directly attack the back line. In the first, I'd say 10-15 minutes of the game, you see that happen quite a few times. But it also does something else. And I think this was the way forward for City. They don't score off of this situation a lot, but I think it changes Liverpool's shape throughout the game. Essentially, what they do is they play directly into Haaland from Donnarumma, and it was perfectly intentional from City's perspective. And what you could see if you look at Donnarumma's pass map is you could see him essentially passing either deep to the sides where Gahey and Kusanov were hanging out, and you could actively see what that was doing. It was like bringing Liverpool's shape up the pitch so they could play balls into that gap, and it was working really effectively. City's aerial duel win rate in that game was 71.86, which is gargantuan. You typically don't see that, so I think it was really, really effective from City's perspective. What was your like takeaway of that part of the game, Ben?
Yeah, I thought I felt like whenever Donnarumma did have the ball, it's weird to watch City go long when
Yeah,
you're just used to watching them play out from behind. But it makes sense. You have someone like Holland up front, and also it's not just Holland. I feel like some of the other,
Semenyo
um,
too.
yeah, you have Semenyo who can run onto the ball, and that's actually massive. Uh,
Yeah,
and so like going up and over makes sense. It's part of what's happening in the game anyways, when people are
it
playing this
is.
higher press and not allowing people to play out from the back. And so it surprised me that City were doing it so effectively, because I
Yeah.
feel like typically like you are going to see Liverpool win a lot more of those aerial duels and stop the play overall.
Yeah, and I think that was a trend of really what started happening in the game. There was a situation where the first 15 minutes of that game, Nico O'Reilly was pressing like an absolute demon. He was everywhere in the first 15
Mhm.
minutes of that game. And I think there was a few scenarios where we start to take advantage of that pressing structure. And what Pep does in response essentially is they kind of revert to a 4-4-2 mid block when they were kind of man zonal hybrid system at first. And what ends up happening is Semenyo and Nico O'Reilly go very, very narrow, and it starts giving our fullbacks some space and time on the ball. And you can see that as the game goes on, we start to take a little bit of advantage of that. Let's go over kind of like main first half takeaways from my perspective. Liverpool at times still way too easy to play through, honestly. Really frustrating just to essentially watch the first line of the press get completely bypassed and one of their pivot players pick it up. In this first half, Liverpool conceded 10 shots, and that's the most at Anfield since 03-04 by an opposition team. Again, you really don't want to hear that. Not a good stat. I'd say City kind of dominated that first half anyway, and they did deserve the lead. So I didn't feel too bitter or kind of too hard done by in that respect. Liverpool in that half, as I kind of alluded to earlier, like really unable to build up from the back. I can remember plenty of situations where there were just combinations between Szoboszlai and Gravenberch, and then Gravenberch back to Szoboszlai, Szoboszlai back to Konate, and it was like that triangle of death. We weren't able really to get out of it, and it was proving really difficult for Liverpool to move the ball up the pitch in that first half. Lots of counters, actually. There was situations where I thought it was a bit of a basketball game, and the reason for that is because, like I said, City's game plan was to kind of draw our shape on and play into that hole, so to speak. And because Liverpool couldn't build up, we found Liverpool were just playing long a bunch of the time, specifically to Gakpo, which I think we fancied that physical battle between Matheus Nunes and Cody Gakpo, and that's basically what we were doing, is just lumping the ball over the top, and it worked sometimes, but most of the time it just resulted in us losing possession of the ball. Some kind of big stats in the first half of that game. So City dominate the ball with 61% possession. Their XG is 1.12, and as I said, they did have 10 total shots, only 3 of those on target and 1 big chance, and I think that is they missed their big chance, but they do score anyway. Yeah, so then we're kind of there dealing with that situation. I'd say they definitely deserve the lead in the first half ultimately. The second half is different though, and I think a lot of it comes from the change in City's shape start giving our fullbacks much more space on the ball, and you start to see things open up, especially because of how we're bypassing their forward press over in almost a very similar strategy to what they had in the first half, and just kind of putting the ball in that specific part of the pitch for our team to, or like the forward players be able to pick up the ball and actively run towards goal. And it started being quite effective. Ekitike had a couple of good chances in this game specifically. There was actually one where, and you'll remember this, Ben, there was a situation where Ekitike kind of picks up the ball from a turnover, like a high turnover, and you see Florian Wirtz like running on the right side of the kind of right side in the pitch, kind of in the half space for the most part, and he decides not to play that ball and pass to Salah, but the ball from Salah to Ekitike was absolutely stunning. It was like a Travella pass where he finished the header, but it was wide. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that one was really good. I remember that. I was really surprised that the ball didn't actually go
Yeah,
to him directly, and I was or to Words, and I was like, man, why are we doing? Or why are you guys doing this? And then
yeah.
that was a good pass, almost perfect finish.
Yeah, it was close, man. It was a type of situation where I felt like that was probably our best open play chance from the game, and we couldn't convert it. And I'd say that's been a trend for a lot of the season. Like we've created a lot of decent chances and able to convert them at times. Ultimately, what improved from the first half to the second half, I'd say ultimately kind of the correct pressing approach. The structure wasn't any different. From my perspective, it was just way more intense. Players like really starting to win their duels and create a bit of chaos in the game, which suited us. And then ultimately we start going longer and it starts working really well. We finished that game with a 66% forward pass percentage, which is pretty high. So it shows most of what we're doing is direct and trying to play quickly with high tempo. And we also have more final third entries than City in that game, which is kind of surprising ultimately. I would say another big thing we were doing quite well in that second half is I think Wirtz was finding much more space, specifically kind of roaming in the half spaces, either right or left. And I think it was giving them some problems. But ultimately, it comes down to Liverpool actively not being able to manage games. You know, they score late in the second half, kind of like really weird situation. It's basically crossed in by Nunes and it's deflected off of one of our players. And then Haaland is a demon in the air. He's in a direct duel with Konate and beats Konate in the air. But the nod down to Bernardo Silva and the finish and anticipation from Bernardo Silva is really good, Ben.
Yeah, yeah. Jack, you just kind of glazed over the Liverpool goal. Are we not going to talk about this goal?
Oh yeah, my God. So Liverpool are in a ridiculous situation. Actually, the funny thing is, there's a very big chance that that isn't actually a free kick, but it was given for us anyway. And I'll hark back to what happened a few months ago against Arsenal at Anfield. I remember saying to Ben before that goal went in, if this goes in, I am sorry for my reaction. And I kind of did it again, not expecting this to go in. This was 0.02 XG. Like, it was so unlikely. And the way Szoboszlai hits this free kick is really unique. Like, he hits it ultimately with the outside of his foot, but it stays like this central trajectory for a long time. And kind of like at the last minute, it kind of dips and curves outwards to hit the post and leave Donnarumma completely rooted to his spot. Like, he didn't even move, and he was just beaten. It was an absolute wonder goal. The scenes in the bar we were at was actually a bunch of fun. Like the celebration of that goal was a bunch of fun. But yeah, ultimately, like I said, they do equalize and it goes 1-1. And what I am hoping for at this point, Ben, is like, please, for the love of God, just they've equalized fine. Really sad that we can't be talking about Szoboszlai's goal as the winner in this case, but I was really gutted when they get that penalty. Do you think it's a penalty? So I'll tell you this. In my first watch, I didn't think it was a penalty. In my second watch, the ball is still in play, and Alisson makes, frankly, a ridiculous decision to come out to Nunes at that point. But the comedy of errors leading to that goal, let me explain. So what ends up happening is McAllister says to Jones, hey, you need to go take Cherky. So Jones goes to take Cherky, and then no one is stopping the run in from Matheus Nunes. Van Dijk can see the space Nunes goes into, but doesn't do anything. So these three players drop the ball for this specific situation. And then instead of Alisson like kind of trying to shimmy him out of bounds, he just absolutely takes the guy out, and it's given a penalty. At the time, I was kind of bitter about it, but when I watch it back, it is the correct decision. It's just a stupid thing for Alisson to do, Ben.
Yeah, I think we didn't see enough replays while watching the broadcast, but like
Yeah,
watching it over and seeing exactly actually how it happened and how far Allison was away from his goal. Yeah, you could argue that Nunes, if he got to that, he could have gotten that ball and could have put it in, if not for a goal, at least for someone else running in behind.
yeah,
So
like a
yeah,
tap across the box or something.
exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it goes 2-1, and there's this crazy situation at the end of it, which is bananas. Allison comes up, obviously, because we're 2-1 down, comes up for a corner, tries to do the heroic thing. They then counter-attack us, and there's Szoboszlai and there's Haaland on the counter-attack. I've never seen Szoboszlai outran like that, by the way. Haaland is rapid. He is insanely quick. Essentially, what ends up happening is they're both running through on goal. Szoboszlai kind of tugs on Haaland's shirt, which is definitely a foul. In that movement, Szoboszlai gets slightly in front of him, and Haaland pulls Szoboszlai down, so there's two fouls, but the ball then rolls into the net. From my perspective, would you say they should just play possession there and give the goal?
Yeah, they should definitely play possession, give the goal. Like that call was like, why are you pulling that call back and giving him a red card if the ball was going to go in the net
I
anyways?
think it's ludicrous.
I thought it was ridiculous. I think like if the ball goes in, it's a goal anyways.
Yes.
You don't pull it back and you don't give him the red card.
It's just wild. Like, just give the goal. Like, he gets sent off. Fortunately, it's not for like quote unquote violent conduct, so he's only banned for one game. But still,
Yeah,
the ending of that game was fucking ridiculous in my perspective. But
yeah.
Liverpool lose again at Anfield. he's Arne Slot has lost more at Anfield. Actually, that's not true. He's lost one less game at Anfield than Jurgen Klopp did the whole of his Liverpool tenure, believe it or not, which is a pretty crazy stat if you ask me.
That is pretty
Ultimately,
wild.
we don't do the favor for Arsenal. City end up kind of getting back to 6 points, like 6 points behind Arsenal. Arsenal play Sunderland the day before. Talk to me about that game, Ben.
Arsenal were really looking for payback for their late loss when we played them at City. Coming off another strong win against Leeds, it was like, hey, we are at home. We are looking for a win because we didn't do great against United. We really should be stepping it up and playing a really good game against Sunderland. Of course, Sunderland, they're looking to maintain that mid-table position. They've had a really great performance overall. And so I think there was a lot to fight for this game. Now, we didn't really have too many issues going into this game. There were a couple of like kind of smaller injuries with Odegaard and Saka still being out, but I mean, we had the depth to be able to handle a team like Sunderland. And then on the Sunderland side, I know that they had Xhaka out for this game, which I think, you know, it's good that they didn't have him in because that helped us with the result. But at the same time, like that would have been a nice little like homecoming moment for him to come back to the Emirates.
I agree with that completely. One thing, actually, and we'll kind of touch on it during Liverpool's game against Sunderland as well. It really impacts the way they can create chances from open play. Like
Yeah.
the void he leaves is so noticeable when he's not there. I thought it was important to mention. Like I remember when we played him, we were kind of scared what he could do on the ball and giving him a bunch of respect, but I think from Arsenal's perspective, you guys just jumped on them early and it kind of rocked them a little bit.
Yeah, I think we were really expecting that, and like, I mean, we jumped right into the game with that quick start. And Trossard, he gets onto the other side of his regular playing position and clips the ball over. And Havertz gets his head to it, and it's just off target. It's just like I think Havertz was trying to get it away from the keeper, obviously, but it was just a little too wide, which was frustrating. But at least it showed that they were starting with like a faster tempo going into this
Yeah,
game.
much quicker.
And then immediately after that, in that first half, like all I could focus on was like how quickly Robbie was getting away from his man, or
Yeah.
at least how much pressure he was putting on Saliba. Like you don't see Saliba fighting like that often in a match.
I thought he was one of the best striking performances I've seen this season against Saliba, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Just nightmare.
yeah, like I think like he was working really hard to make Saliba fight for the ball. I
Yeah.
mean, he forces. I guess Saliba is forced to give up a card early on, but like at the same time, like that was a really fun duel to watch. It was nervy, but it was like a really fun duel for me to watch over and over again. I think what as you mentioned, Declan, just his performance overall. I would say that like what I really saw was a different kind of game that was evolving from Arsenal. They were really focusing more on that left side rather than on the right side because
Yeah.
we don't have Saka and Odegaard. But what they were doing was Declan would actually drop back. Declan has been a lot more progressive, but with Calafiori on the team, he actually drops back, and Calafiori does the overlap while Trossard kind of tucks in a little bit more. That ball goes through those mid spaces, and that's kind of how Arsenal were trying to break down a lot of that first half overall. And then defensively, Arsenal was just willing to give up the ball and sit off on the ball. They were able to play like more of a zone game and force the ball up the middle of the pitch. Outside of the on the outside of the pitch, while they focused their like defensive prowess in the middle of the pitch. And so I think like during that time, they're really focusing less on pressing and willing to focus a little bit more on those recoveries and making the tackle once the ball got away. And the ball did get away often from Sunderland in that first half.
You know what I think? Like, I think the reason Arsenal are so happy to sit off is because I just kind of feel like without Xhaka, you as a squad like feel like they're not going to be able to hurt us through open play, and that was a trend in our game too. And I'll kind of get onto that, but I do feel that was a big reasoning. Like they can't really hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I mean, Arsenal were playing kind of conservative. They just didn't want to get stuck in that
Yeah.
horseshoe or that donut of despair that we like to call it. Sunderland just edged out possession in that first half, which was kind of wild to see Arsenal give up that much possession. I mean, it was 52% possession for Sunderland, so just barely a little bit
It's
more.
kind of nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, especially at home. And I think a lot of that was because Arsenal were like willing to kind of absorb and not
Yeah,
necessarily didn't want to press too high because what Bobby brought in the back of the pitch and was able to, if he was able to get away. Um,
great
yeah,
finish by Zubimendi as well in
yeah,
that half.
like going into like the first 40 minutes of the game, first 35 minutes of the game, it was really, really frustrating to
Frustrating.
watch. And then, there's this move that actually happened a couple of times where um where earlier before Zubmendi made that goal, Rice actually takes a very, very similar kind of shot.
Yeah,
Same kind of play. Trossard is on the edge of the box. He passes it back to Rice. Rice takes that almost exact kind of shot, but on the far post, and it just narrowly misses the post and goes out. What actually was interesting in this game was in that first half, there were in the game there were 9 total shots from outside or at the edge of the box for Arsenal. When they usually get a little bit more closer into the box to make the shots, like it's just kind of wild to see how often they are trying to take those shots from outside the box. And one of them works. Madueke passes the ball. Actually, he presses Adelerte and gets the ball, which I actually was really, really happy to see. He switches the play across the pitch to Zubimendi. Zubimendi kind of pulls the play around, gives it to Trossard, comes back to the edge of the box, and then a beautiful shot as a 0.029 xg and a 0.02 xcot, which is goal on target. Like he does something similar to the kind of shot that you saw Spazlai do, where he kind of like drags his foot from the outside of the ball and kind of like makes it go really low and like kind of curve in, which is always really fun to see. And he places it perfectly to hit the post. I actually thought it was bouncing out, but it just goes across and hits the net and stays in. It was just it was beautiful. I loved
I
it.
would say too, kind of with that, by virtue of the fact of like where he put it, made that almost unsavable for the goalkeeper. Like the velocity he hits it at and
Yep.
the angle the ball actually flies into the post makes it so difficult for the keeper
Yeah.
to deal with, I think. But the funny part about that is there was that Rice chance that you spoke about. There
Mhm.
was that one, and then there was one from Havertz, if you remember, like right at the end of the half, where Havertz kind of,
Mhm.
you're running on a counter attack. He kind of cuts inside and kind of angles the ball, kind of the
Yeah.
Salah goal, if you will, if you
Yep.
think
Yep.
about it that way. And it whispers just past the post, but you go into the kind of halftime break at 1-0, and I think that's probably a little bit flattering for Sunderland, honestly, based on the chances you have in that half. But
Yeah.
you do eventually punish them.
Yeah, I mean, in the first half, we did have like a 0.36 xg, and 0.29 from open play. So, like, I think Sunderland, I think we had a lot of chances. Maybe they weren't super great, but it's also because a lot of those shots were from outside the box.
Yeah,
And we're trying to make it, we're trying to make them suffer from outside the box. Yeah, and then we go into a second half feeling good at a 1-0, but we still know that there's a lot that can happen. We wanted to make sure we can pull the win through. So right at the beginning, like Sunderland comes out fast and hard.
really
And they
fast.
they look like they want something. They're the most vertical in the first 5 minutes that they've been in the entire game. They want to kind of really disrupt the defense and mess with Arsenal quickly. They have 3 penalty area entries in those first 5 minutes versus a total of 9 in the whole second half. But the other part of that about this part of the game is this is the only time that they have a shot on target in the entire second half,
It's wild.
which was actually pretty good shot on target overall, honestly. So Arsenal eventually get control again, and Sunderland is pressing, trying to get the ball back, and that really helps Arsenal, release their players and come back into it. I feel like what they have done from the first half to the second half was they were really like dictating how the match was played a little bit more. They remained patient in areas that they really could play through, and then they just played the ball through when they needed to. I feel like rather than they like in the first half, instead of having like a tempo, like an ongoing tempo, they were kind of fluctuating
Yeah,
in this. So they'd really make Sunderland fight for the ball. They weren't know what to expect throughout the entire game. Like Arsenal would turn up the heat, then they'd kind of pull it back. Then they turn up the heat, then kind of pull it back. So I felt like that was like a really, really good way to kind of manage Sunderland and also stretch them in times that they really couldn't play well. I think another part of this also that changed for me is Nkapia came on for Calafiori, and then suddenly didn't know what was happening because Declan took on the more advanced role that Zubimendi really was doing before, and Zubimendi was starting to drop back. And then Eza also came on for Havertz, and Eza doesn't really play as high. He plays a bit more centrally and was kind of
Yeah.
overloading the center of the pitch. We kind of get into a lull in action in the game, but there's this moment in from like 78 the 78th minute to like the 81st minute when like Arsenal atmosphere felt really good. Like you always talk about how like Arsenal atmosphere hasn't been really great in the last few years, but like the North back clock end chant was back for 3 minutes straight, and it was just kind of like a fun moment when I was watching it at home and actually listening to the game. I was like, huh, that's kind of nice. You can actually hear the chant going back and forth. And then right after that, we go into we get our next goal. Well, sorry, I skipped the next goal, which was actually a pretty poor clearance from Sunderland. Trossard gets it. He breaks the line, gives it to Havertz.
It's a good ball, that.
Havertz, like, he gets it back to Gyökeres, and Gyökeres puts the ball through as he's falling down.
Yeah.
And it was, I feel like that was like kind of a good way for them to kind of finish up that last touch for Havertz. We felt like that goal was coming all along, but what did you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt as if at that stage of the game it was getting more and more stretched,
Yeah.
and you could see like several play sequences before that. Arsenal were playing the ball forward quickly, but also playing the ball quite long at times. And I kind of felt Sunderland were under quite a lot of pressure at that period, but you go 2-0 up. It's funny actually because that goal is such a Gyökeres type of goal, dude.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think although he's falling over, he hits it really well.
Mm-hmm.
Keeper kind of has no chance because of how hard he does hit it. I think the
Yep.
keeper does get his hand to it, but it is a good finish. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. We go 2-0 up, and then I think at this point, like I just want like the last goal. Like I want the killer
The
goal. I
killer.
want us to like close out the game because we know what can happen if you let the other team have the ball too much at that late phase of the game. Um and we have a counter. Like these late match counters seem like how Arsenal really put games away and win games, and we'll get to that again a little later today. But and it's really funny because in my notes when I was watching that, I said Martinelli on the right feels more dangerous because like people just don't expect what he's going to do. Like they don't expect that kind of speed coming through that late in the game, and they haven't really prepared for it, especially if they've been facing up like someone like Noni at the first half because Noni likes to put in the paces too. So they're just like kind of fully gassed. But yeah, Martinelli gets through, has a nice little pass. I think he could have taken the shot himself, but passes it back to Gyökeres for the brace. Goal in, game done. And honestly, like overall, like it was an emphatic win that we really needed at home. I think we played this game happened before the Liverpool City game, so it was kind of
Yeah.
showing City like, yeah, okay, you may be doing well, but we're still in this game. We're still in this race. And at that point, we were actually 9 points ahead, waiting for the Liverpool win at Anfield. I think overall, Sunderland did put up a fight, but Arsenal really had an answer for pretty much everything that they
I
did
agree.
put up. The first half looked disconnected, and I think it's mainly because Arsenal was actually kind of like doing game management earlier on in the game, making sure that they didn't give something up. And then they don't have to sit up behind or in front of a low block. And the second half was just like a free flowing game. I think like that first goal opened it up a lot for Sunderland. After the
It
second
did.
goal, it was just kind of like, okay, you know what? Let's maintain our defensive duties and let's get a killer on a counter, which is exactly what happened. My man of the match for this game was actually Trossard. Wasn't the official man of the match. I think Gyökeres was official man of the match.
Yeah. Scores 2.
Yeah. I mean, he scores 2. Of course, he's going to get it. And I don't even think Trossard was that high in overall points, but I think he did create 4 chances. He had the first assist, and then he had a second assist for the second goal. He actually put that ball through to Havertz when Havertz cut it back to Gyökeres. Like he's making the kinds of plays and passes that Odegaard has been making in the past, and he's kind of really dominated that left side position. I mentioned that he had tucked back into the center of the field often, and he's kind of like playing those through balls and almost becoming this like hybrid 8 whenever Declan Rice does drop back. So Trossard was my man of the match. Yeah, overall, I was pretty happy with that game.
I would be too. I think the result wasn't a surprise because I remember chatting to you about this beforehand and kind of expecting an Arsenal win here. But I think
Yeah.
how the game goes, the first 30 minutes, I can obviously see why it would be frustrating. But kind of, once you go 1-0 up against these types of teams, I think it's such a big advantage for the teams that are kind of higher up in the table because you can start playing in behind. When you have a bunch of space with probably, maybe this is a bit unfair, but like more talented players, you
Hmm.
start to see how space can be exploited. And that's kind
Yeah.
of where the Arsenal goals come from, essentially. They take advantage of that slight, slight increase part of the game, which is ultimately it was chaos. If you remember,
Yeah.
like the second goal, they give the ball away. And I think the ball from Trossard is actually really nice,
Hmm.
but that ends up in a goal. And then the third goal is kind of, I wouldn't say it's against the run of play ultimately, because I think Arsenal are kind of keeping them at arm's length for the most part. But Martinelli does pretty well on the counter and slides through Gyökeres.
Yeah.
It's kind of just a comfortable win, and there's not really much else to say apart from that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a comfortable win. I think it was exactly what we needed going into this weekend. I'm coming off of the last home loss,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was a good moment for Arsenal. But yeah, should we jump into the Sunderland match against Liverpool?
Yeah. So this game is kind of different to how I would describe a lot of Liverpool games during the season, honestly. Where I feel like at times we've been somewhat vulnerable and fragile, quite frankly, against teams that are way more physical than us, which Sunderland definitely are. Liverpool handled it really, really well in this game. We end up winning the game 1-0, but I'd say the game is like really hard fought ultimately throughout the whole of it. The win itself puts a bunch of pressure on the teams that drop points the same weekend as us. Like you could see Chelsea drop points against Leeds and United drop points against West Ham. So this was a kind of big things for us to capitalize on, and we actually did. Some notable items like different changes that we probably didn't expect. Endo goes in at right back because Szoboszlai gets banned for this game. Robertson starts ahead of Kirkes, and Wirtz is directly through the middle, obviously in the absence of Szoboszlai. I'd say Liverpool in the first half played really, really well. Super aggressive, managing to kind of pen Sunderland in at times. Sunderland are kind of like in a 4-5-1, and I don't love that pressing shape, frankly, because it gives that front player just way too much to do,
Hmm.
especially if the build up shape is relatively wide, which it was for us. So it kind of gives Brobby like a really difficult task. But Liverpool were building in like a 3-2 in the second phase. Like once they build out, kind of Robbo, VVD, and Ibu make the three, and then the two pivot players with Mac and Grav. Liverpool are like playing a hybrid zonal man marking system kind of early in that game. But because Slot likes to have like one extra man at the back, I'd say they were kind of easily playing through us at times, even still. But
Hmm.
once we get to 25 minutes, Liverpool switch to like a full man to man system, kind of where the wingers and the fullbacks lock on to their respective markers. And we started to see like a completely different game once Liverpool started doing that. I think Liverpool realized that, kind of as I alluded to just now, I don't think Sunderland have the quality to play through Liverpool regularly, especially if we are in situations where the man marking assignments are working and guys are winning their duels. Liverpool in that first half, they generate zero point 0.8 XG. We have 14 total shots, which is kind of domination, quite frankly. Only two shots on target, but I think Liverpool overall, that's one of the better first halves I've seen from Liverpool in the Premier League, especially against that type of opponent. They were consistently putting the ball really long up to Brobby and Konate, akin to Saliba. I thought
Hmm.
Konate did incredibly well against Brobby most of that game. He was pulling onto Konate's side predominantly because no one wants to deal with Virgil van Dijk in the air, but
Yeah.
I think overall Konate does a really good job in that first half, and I feel kind of hard done by going into that first half at 0-0, honestly, because I kind of feel like Liverpool created a lot,
Yeah.
but ultimately weren't able to kind of convert in that first half, so we go in at 0-0. But one of the better halves I've seen from Liverpool, Ben.
Yeah, it was a really pretty decent first half. I was surprised that you didn't have a goal going into it.
Yeah,
It was funny watching because like there were a lot of parallels, especially because we I just watched the Arsenal game against, I believe, the night before, because that was when I did my rewatch on Tuesday night before watching that Liverpool game. And like that thing that you called out against Brabi and Kanate, like absolutely, like it looked like the same kind of game plan that they had. And Kanate did a good job, holding him back. I feel like Kanate is a little bigger than Saliba. I think Saliba had a harder job doing it, and Kanate just kind of like dominated just because of his overall profile. Yeah, like 14 shots in the first half was kind of wild for Liverpool to not have had anything go in.
I completely agree. And kind of once that 25-minute onwards hits, Fitz starts to take the game over, starts to find a lot of space and ultimately in half spaces. And he has this shot at the edge of the box. It's kind of like a routine save, but he hits it with really good velocity. Unlike a lot of shots we've seen him take this year, quite frankly, I think some of them have been kind of P shooters, but this one is 0.07 XG with an XGOT of 0.61. So good shot, good save by Roofs, who I think was actually really, really good on the day. Out like first minute, Virgil van Dijk gets a pretty good chance off a corner. It's like a head flick where I think if he steers that properly, it will at least be on target, but he kind of fucks it up and ends up going over the bar. Wirtz, kind of later in the first half, it's probably around the 30th minute. Really, really good movement in the box. He takes this beautiful touch to kind of angle himself for a shot, and he just slides the ball onto the post. It's kind of akin to that shot he had against Newcastle when he scored, but this time it hits the post, but he's starting to take over and feel really confident. Something that I noticed actually throughout this game for Florian Wirtz is, and I know it from Liverpool spaces, that he's actually put on like a bunch of weight. I think he's put on 7 kilos, Ben, which is nuts. Wow. So they're trying to bulk him up and obviously make him more sturdy for the Premier League. And at times you can really see that that's paying off, because I think there are situations where he's doing really well. He's always been really good at like pressure regains and winning the ball high up. But typically, if it's a tussle with someone in like a man-oriented pressing system, he doesn't do that well. But there are several times in this game where I think he got the better of some guys, which is fantastic. Near the end of that first half, I'd say it was a little bit end-to-end. But Liverpool managed to kind of put a lid on it and restrict Sunderland to only 0.14 XG at that first half. And I was really happy going into the first half, but ultimately would have liked us to score. In the second half, Sunderland really start a little bit more aggressive for me. And they start playing the ball much quicker, but they actually get some territorial dominance early in that second half. Ultimately, though, like Liverpool have to dig in for a lot of that half. I've heard people talk about like potential penalty shouts for Sunderland for Brobby, but I call bullshit on that. I don't think Kanate managed to play the fine line of like getting into a tussle with someone, but letting go just in time to not give away a foul, if you know what I mean. And he actually, like I said, throughout the game, he does really well with Brobby, and that continues in this half. I thought both centre-backs, both him and Virgil, were absolutely phenomenal. Winning a bunch of stuff in the air. They were troubling us in the air and had a bunch of set pieces as well that we were really dealing well with. And I was really happy at the end of the day, because I've seen Liverpool be really weak in these scenarios. And Sunderland, as we've alluded to a few times already, are like an incredibly physical team. And these would typically be the teams Liverpool struggle against. But I was really happy to see the midfield do kind of what they needed to do. McAllister had a 67% dual win rate by the end of that game, which if you think of McAllister throughout this season, you wouldn't attribute him with dual win rate. So he played really well. I think this is one of his best games of the season. A really sad part of the game, though, is Wataru Endo, who I thought, by the way, up to that point was excellent. You don't expect him to be amazing in terms of offensive output, but some of the stuff he did do and kept the ball moving, he did really well at. But there is a situation in the game where he kind of makes like a last-ditch sliding clearance, and he gets like his foot caught under him. I think it's an ACL injury, Ben, from what I've heard today. So that kind of puts him out for the rest of the season. He's not a young guy either, so that's kind of brutal for him, and really unfortunate, because he starts to get in a couple of games and plays really well, and he gets fucking put out for the season. It's kind of like the story of the season so far from a Liverpool perspective, to be honest, but it is what it is. Joe Gomez is fit enough to come on, and Joe Gomez is like, at least for me, from a Liverpool fan's perspective, he's just always reliable. Like when you need him, he's cool, he's calm, he's collected. He does exactly what you need him to do, and this wasn't any different. There was a bombardment near the end of the game, kind of the end of the regular 90, and I thought all three centre backs did really well. Robertson defended very well as well. I'd say overall, really, really happy with the way this game goes. Virgil van Dijk ends up scoring off of a corner, which actually puts us ahead. I thought it was given as an own goal, and it'd have been really funny if it was another Mukiele own goal again, because like I'd said to you over text, I don't think I've ever seen a situation where in both games the same person is conceded, like scored an own goal, but it didn't happen. Van Dijk scored. It was a good header. He gets up like ahead of everyone really well and finishes. So 1-0, we have something to defend, and we do. Like I said, man, we defend really well in this game. Huge notable set piece improvement for me. They had a bunch of long throws, and Liverpool dealt with them very well. And like I'd like to touch on kind of like an overall improvement in set pieces throughout the last few weeks. Aaron Briggs was sacked, but I don't think it was anything to do with Aaron Briggs being there. Like I said throughout a bunch of these episodes, I think Liverpool have been really unlucky when it comes to conceding off of set pieces. We rarely concede off of the first action. It's typically off of second or third action. And most of those chances are pretty low XG. And I think there's part of it is dealing with these situations more intensely from a second ball perspective. But I also think kind of there's a bit of reversion to the mean here. Like you can't continue to be unlucky all the time. So I think a lot of that is attributed to that, but I've seen Liverpool improve a lot defensively from set pieces, and not just defensively. I think we've set up the way we're setting up for set pieces now, like offensively. You could see that off of the goal for Van Dijk. It's very similar to a lot of what people are doing in the league, which we weren't doing before. We were doing a bunch of outswinging corners before, but now we're kind of crowding the 6-yard box as a bunch of people are, and Salah's trying to kind of drop it under the bar. And that's ultimately how we score at the end of the day. I don't love that tactic, quite frankly. So I'll stand by that. But it's super effective. It's funny because like we touched on a few episodes ago, I do think that situation is way easier to deal with and people are dealing with it. But as long as it's effective, people are going to continue to do it, and it gives us the 1-0, and it ultimately leads us to winning the game. Let me glaze Wirtz for a little bit, please, because he was absolutely sensational, as I said. He was really good in the second half as well. He has the highest number of counter pressures for Liverpool, which is a consistent trend if he plays through the middle. Typically, any of Liverpool's central players tend to get a lot of pressures because that's typically how we counter press and we press up high. He's the highest XG chain performer. Essentially, what XG chain is it kind of measures the total XG of all the shots in a specific sequence for specific players. So that could be passes, dribbles, and shots, and he's the most productive player in that regard throughout the whole of the game for Liverpool. It's kind of annoying that he didn't end up scoring or assisting, but it is what it is sometimes. But overall, fantastic performance. And I noticed that a bunch of other people were saying it too, so it's not just Liverpool fans. There's a lot of praise for him after that. But yeah, Liverpool end up in that second half. We generate 1.14 XG. We miss some big chances in the second half. And that's probably the biggest criticism I have ultimately of Liverpool in this game. If we take advantage of situations, we beat them 4-0. Like, I can think of plenty of situations where Liverpool should score and do not. And that is really frustrating for me because I can't recall many times this season where we have been ahead and managed to punish teams, but ultimately it doesn't come back to bite us in the ass. We do create 9 shots, only 1 on target, but 3 big chances. I think Hugo Ekitike was quite wasteful in the air. I don't think he's particularly strong in the air, but like some of the chances he's getting to kind of head the ball and he's putting them wide or missing them, it's not great. Would prefer to see him convert those, but what can you do? We go away, we win 1-0. I really honestly cannot complain of the performance overall from Liverpool's perspective. It's a huge improvement when it comes to kind of like defending long balls and set pieces. Really happy. What do you think of the game overall, Ben? Like, what was your takeaways?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting that it was only a 1-0 win. I thought that the game was going to open up, and the game did open up after that goal in the 60th minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, like I remember there was that one shot by Ekitike. I think it was like the 71st minute, right? Where he just like skies the ball.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, just looking at that.
He kind of cuts he kind of cuts in
Yeah.
and hits it. I think it's actually a decent shot, but he
Yeah.
does sky it.
Yeah.
There's another one which is a cross from Robertson, which is a
Mhm.
0.32 xG chance. I expect strikers to put those away, and
Yeah.
he doesn't do that. So he has like a few chances throughout the game, and kind of doesn't convert them, which is kind of unlike him for a lot of this season. His conversion rate's typically been pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I felt like, it did definitely like you had a better game than the result actually shows.
Agree.
Sometimes like football doesn't show, like the result doesn't actually show you the kind of game that you had. So, yeah, I think overall, like strong win. And I mean, we didn't talk about this, but you actually handed Sunderland their first loss at home in the season.
Yeah, it's a
So,
big result, honestly. Like
yeah.
I listened to some Sunderland previews before this via some different other podcasts, and a lot of them were saying like they've not been particularly great away from home, but
Mhm.
most of their home games have been where they like pour all of their energy, and you could see like what Liverpool did really well is they had enough control in the game to kind of silence the crowd a bit, and I think it made a big difference, honestly. Like outside of the intro, the crowd didn't play much of a part in it at all, Ben.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
ultimately, we come out with a win, and I really can't complain. What I would say is I think the wingers really need to step up, both Salah and Gakpo. Gakpo does some stuff in this game, which I think is like a net improvement. Like he actually goes on the outside a few times, Ben, and plays
Mhm.
through Robertson. It's like, my God. If I had a fucking dollar for every time I've asked him to do that, I'd be a rich man at this stage, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of bozo moments, not really doing what I expect him to do. He's a bit of a one-trick pony, and ultimately, I think if Wirtz had two very direct 1v1 wingers next to him, you'd see it would be way easier for him because he'd have players taken away from him in those situations. But like Gakpo doesn't do anything. Mohamed Salah is incredibly off form. He looks really like he's lacking confidence in front of goal. And if I'd have said this to you like this time last season, you'd have been like, Salah lacking confidence in front of goal. What the hell are you talking about? But
Yeah.
he had some chances in this game to score, and he can't. There is a decent attempt at the end of the game in like the 96th minute. It'd have been kind of outrageous if he scored it. It's like a no look half volley. But yeah, both wingers really aren't pulling their weight at the moment. I'd like to see them improve. Once Chiesa comes on, we really see like how much of a shift Ekatike has put up, and Chiesa, for the lack of kind of like overall fitness, bringing him on in like late in games, he's still definitely intense enough to do a bunch of running in that scenario. And we had a pretty good outball with him there. He had some good moments running up the left, but ultimately, I'm happy to come away with the win. And like you said, Ben, handing them their first loss of the season at home, so big result for Liverpool. Kind of puts us closer to the teams fighting for top four, and we go again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think you've basically given everyone around you on the table to a challenge, saying, "Yeah, we're here. We're going to challenge for top four, top
Yeah,
five." So yeah, they gotta do something this next week.
sure. Let's get into the game of today then. So Arsenal Brentford.
Do we have to?
I mean, I'd like to.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd
Let's
like
get
to.
into it. Yeah. This game did happen today, so I think a lot of like my thoughts are still forming. I may ramble on things. I will put as much into data as I can because that's what we want to do in this. But yeah, just want to go into that. So before we even get into it, yeah, I think it's kind of when we got on this pod and we started talking. Jack was like, "How you doing, man?" And I just kind of like sighed, and that's exactly what I felt this game was. Like
Yeah,
this game was a sigh. Right. So if we go into it, result is a 1-1. And you know what? Honestly, 1-1 is probably what Arsenal deserved, barely. Going into this game, Arsenal had not lost to Brentford since the first in the Premier League, since their first meetup in 21-22. That was at Brentford home. And so this match really was like, in my thought, I was like, it should be a routine match. We go there, we get points, we get out. But as we started it, there was a couple of notable things that I noticed. Mosquera started, Saliba wasn't on the team.
yeah.
I didn't hear anything about a Saliba injury. It could have just been rest
Illness.
going into it. Oh, it was illness? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I personally figured like if we would have rotation here, most likely in the defense, give some rest so we can go in FA Cup over the weekend. It is a double game week for Arsenal, so we do have 3 games before we go in the next week. What was it, 11 days before going over to Tottenham.
It's kind of
2 in the Premier
brutal.
League, one in FA Cup. So yeah, Saka was back on the bench. Odegaard was back on the bench. And then Arsenal started with what I like to call like the control setup versus the tempo setup, right? So these are the players who aren't moving as quickly. They are focusing more on controlling the game, controlling possession. Just looking at that, I was like, I think I know what to expect for this game.
Do you think? Because, like, from my perspective, I think you start with a little bit of a mismatch of players. Like, let's put this into perspective. So,
Yeah.
I'd call Noni Madueke a counter-attacking player. I think he's way better with space in front of him.
Yeah.
I'd say the same of Gyökeres, for
Yeah.
sure. I think Trossard is one of those controlling players. I think he's good in tight spaces, which typically leads to success when Arsenal play teams that low block, essentially. Eze, I think, is more direct than Odegaard. Uh, Team pivot, as you would expect. I was kind of surprised to not see Calafiori in this game because
Mhm.
I think he's better going forward than Hincapié.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I would say it's kind of more of a mismatch setup to a degree. I think the control
Yeah.
setup
That's
is
fair.
much more with Odegaard and Saka.
Yeah, and I think I mainly go into that really focusing because Odegaard and Saka could have started. They were
Yeah,
on the bench, but they're coming off of injury, so they wouldn't have started. I think like because of that, like the way that the instruction was also like a control, like that's what we're gonna do in this game.
yeah,
When if we did switch out Gyökeres for Jesus, I think we would have had the person in there who would have really helped the tempo because
I agree.
even though Gabriel Jesus may not be as fast in a straight line as Gyökeres when he gets up to speed, I think it's because how quickly he can get in and out of spaces and move the ball around. But yeah, I think mismatch is a very great way to put it. Like it was definitely focused a lot more on people who I don't know, just felt like people who didn't really play that much together or haven't been successful together.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think a lot of this comes down to Havertz being injured. I think he probably started this game.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think like overall the approach from Arsenal early on was very much control the ball, control the tempo. Don't give Brentford a bunch of time in our half. And I
Mhm.
think for the most part you did do that really well
Mhm.
early on in the game. I would say like Brentford are insanely dangerous from set piece situations, man. Like
Yeah.
super dangerous. I would say ultimately, kind of like the on the balance of play in the first half, I think Arsenal do really well and ultimately compete with them physically, which we've seen. I think that's why they're seventh in the league or wherever they are because they are
Mhm.
in crazy physical and difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, I think they have a couple of decent chances in that first half, but I think Arsenal managed to keep them at arm's length to a well enough degree.
Yeah. In that first half, Arsenal had 59% possession, um, but only 0.12 xg, really only
Yes,
one shot.
it's not
While
good.
Brentford had 41% possession, 0.41 xg with 3 total shots and one big chance. That big
That was the
chance coming
Igor
from
Thiago one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that Igor Thiago one, and it actually came from Raya making an error when taking
Yeah,
the ball. He wanted to go out fast, but he gave it directly to uh,
Lewis
who
Potter.
was it? Was it Potter?
Yeah,
Yeah, and then ball comes in. Thiago has a shot, and I don't know how Raya saved this, but
great
like
save.
that's like it's what kept us in the game. It was a really really good save. It was a 0.62 x got, and Raya got
Yeah,
to it.
that's
So
mad.
yeah, it was a really really good save, and honestly, that's what kept us in the game. I saw like things that I was observing was just kind of like the central overloads, Trossard dropping back into the middle and kind of playing the ball through the middle, being kind of that target person who's moving the ball around. I think that's largely because we don't have Odegaard around.
Yeah,
But then when we got to Sunderland's half, I just typed in horseshoe of hell again, right? It's like sorry, not Sunderland, in Brentford's half. It felt exactly like what we did against Sunderland. And even when we had possession, and what I had to keep reminding myself is like, you know what? Okay, we did this a couple days ago. That's what we're doing. We are just playing that kind of ball. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. We're gonna get a goal eventually. But that first half was just so bad. There was a moment when I was wondering, like, why is Eza on the pitch right now? He just wasn't having a good game. It felt like he didn't know where he needed to be to make anything happen in that first half.
It's funny because like if you think about kind of the Arsenal setup over the last few years, you typically attribute to that attacking player, like that attacking midfielder, occupying that right space,
Hmm.
combining with the fullback and Saka.
Yeah,
He's not that type of player, man. He really isn't. He's much
yeah,
more of like a central zone 14 guy. But like I think even when he played for Palace, there were times where he just disappear in games, like where he wouldn't have a bunch of impact until like what's the term? Like moments that are vital. So like big assists, big goals, lots of long shot goals actually for Palace.
hmm,
But I think he's a very different player to Martin Odegaard. He's
yeah,
way less volume than Odegaard. But like if all of the tempo setting and all of the penetration comes from Odegaard when Eze is on the pitch, he's almost kind of expected to do something similar to that. And to me, he's just not that type of player.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's, yeah. I mean, that's definitely what we're seeing in the kind of game that he has, right? It was, I think, like. I don't know how to describe like what we need to do to make him work. I was talking to my buddy Jeff, and and he was like, "It's like we got as a just so Tottenham couldn't get him. Like
I mean,
That's the reason
I
why we
think
got
to a
him."
degree though. So let's think about this. I would say out of the new signings, I think he's probably been. I don't want to use this word begrudgingly. Actually, I'll use it begrudgingly because I can't really think of another word that's applicable. He's been kind of disappointing.
Yeah,
But overall, I think the way he played for Palace, let's think about how Palace play, man. Like he is there to receive the ball in between the lines, and Palace play with a bunch of high tempo.
hmm,
It's a similar type of thing to Gyökeres. If you're not playing the ball into him into space, he's way less effective. I think
yeah,
when it comes to Eze, and you're trying to compare him to the guy that typically plays that position. Like I said, he's just not a volume guy, and Arsenal
yeah,
need volume players. And I often find when it comes to kind of Eze in those attacking situations, he wants to be in a situation where he can either shoot like long shots or find space inside the box.
hmm,
He's a decent finisher, but I just don't think he gets the ball enough in dangerous areas, and I think that's typically why you've seen him underperform.
yeah. And as you're saying that, I think about it, and like if I think like what the game plan maybe was, and maybe just wasn't executed, was that as actually plays the same role that Havertz plays, right? Where they
Yeah,
play two up top, and he just wasn't getting into those positions, or the ball was going down the wrong side of the pitch too much. Maybe we were focusing on the left side of the pitch more than where we really need to be focusing the ball. But like he wasn't kind of hanging out in the spaces that Havertz usually hangs out in.
no,
We weren't playing that kind of position, so I was wondering like why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing the thing that was working? And as you described, what Eza is used to doing, like why is it that we didn't play that kind of game in that first half?
it's interesting because I thought at times like Brentford were really aggressive. They were pressing forward like aggressively up high, and I
Yeah,
thought that'd have been perfect for him to like be able to drop deep and get on the ball. But there
yeah,
there were times where I mean his average position is slightly deeper in this game than Zubamendi,
hmm,
believe it or not. But I just don't know if that's the best way to get something out of Eze as a player,
yeah,
personally.
yeah. I mean, like his average position, I felt like should have been a little higher. Just looking at like the pass map,
Yeah,
like it should be up next to where
Gyökeres.
Gyökeres is, and like, but since he's not there, no one's occupying that space. And like, if we are able to occupy that space, we probably could have gotten in a few more chances, and he would have been a bit more active. Like he's literally on top of Zubimendi right now. So
I think that benefits Gyökeres more too. I think Gyökeres is
yeah,
definitely the type of player that needs someone to play off of.
hmm,
And that's how I think you've seen him combine so well with Havertz, is because Havertz does play super high in that position. I think to do that, or like to get the best out of Eze, you need to use him a little bit more similarly to that. I also think he's better kind of coming off of the left centrally. And when he's like made to be that central roamer, I just don't think it works that well for his style of play.
Yeah. 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 I guess I don't want to take too much time on Eza, but we don't have to because we get in the second half and he gets substituted immediately for the half. And Odegaard comes on. I was looking at it and I was like, all right, Odegaard's on. And I could tell immediately just the game changed a little bit. Not as much as I wanted to, but in the first half, Eza had 17 touches and 9 passes in 45 minutes. In Odegaard's first 5 minutes of the second half, 5 minutes from 45 to 50, Odegaard had 10 touches and 7 passes.
Yeah, you can see like a different, again, volume player. Like
Yeah,
he's comfortable dictating play and keeping the ball moving.
and I think what that tells me is like it definitely tells me like what this team is used to doing and who they're used to going and what they expect from that person.
Yeah,
And so I don't think you're right. As isn't getting the kind of service he wants. Maybe the team doesn't know how to do it. And that's like kind of what frustrated me the most during that game. And then once again, Gyökeres, he's been on a good run, but he was really struggling with his duels overall. Like he doesn't have the touch to bring the ball down and turn fast enough like Gabriel Jesus can. And if he doesn't have a partner up there like someone like Havertz, he now is 2 to 3 on 1 and he just can't recover the ball. So I do like that partnership between Gyökeres, and if we have Gyökeres, I think we really need to have a secondary partner up there with him to help out. And I don't know if Odegaard is the right person. Maybe he can be. There were times earlier on, a few matches before Havertz came in, where Odegaard was trying to do that, but we just didn't have as much control in the game. So that was kind of like frustrating to watch overall. What I really wanted to see in that second half is I wanted to see Martinelli come in earlier than
me too.
he did come on. Like I was expecting Martinelli to actually start this game. I didn't think Madueke was going to get the start, but I really was expecting Martinelli just because of how well he's been playing. But I can also Martinelli's been coming on, so it's game state. He's coming on when there's tired legs, being able to like run past players, and that's just a game state tactic that we've gotten into. But it just felt like it wasn't working overall. But then we pull something out. Brentford continues to sit deeper. We keep having more possession. They're staying narrow, and we have to make crossing work, and we kind of do. And I think that goal's kind of gifted.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, Nkapie like has a good ball, like it's pretty much a free header from Madueke, and he gets it across the keeper. The keeper didn't even realize that ball was going in, and he just dives way late.
I think he finishes it well though, Madueke. Yeah. He's kind of jumping but going backwards. It's hard to get power on the ball that way. I do think Kelleher could probably do better on that, but it's so like put into the corner that I kind of forgive him.
It's a it's a 0.19 and a 0.79 xGOT.
Yeah, well converted.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming from like cross, which was basically like a set piece. Anyways, so goal goes in, and then at that point, I actually expected an immediate substitution right then and there.
That's when I wanted Martinelli.
Yeah, I think Martinelli would have been the perfect player to come on for Madueke at that point. But then the game goes on a little bit more, and there's a throw-in for Brentford. We talk about Coyote so much. We talk about him so much.
We do.
And Coyote goes in for this throw-in. The commentary going into this, they were talking about how good Brentford is at throw-ins. And I was like, whenever you say something like that, something's going to happen, isn't it? Ball goes in. Venneberg gets ahead to it, glances it behind him. Lewis Potter is just completely free. Odegaard loses Lewis Potter, and he puts it across Raya, and it goes in. And like, it was just so sad to see.
Yeah, it's funny because like I could just kind of see it coming.
Yeah,
they were getting a lot of these long throw situations and set pieces. They are really effective from set pieces, mainly because their head coach was their set piece coach.
Yeah.
Keith Andrews knows what he's doing. Their team on average is like, I think I read like it's over 6 foot. They're massive. Their center backs are huge. Igor Thiago, the striker, is massive, who I think was good in this game, but he had some decent chances that I thought he kind of squandered. But the set piece is kind of as you expect, really, from a Brentford situation, like long throw, knock on from a centre back. Lewis Potter finds some space at the back post and converts really well. And
yeah, 1-1. Yeah, goal goes in. At that point, the game does open up even more, and it's just kind of a lot of,
gets mad.
Brentford's looking for the win. Arsenal is looking for the winner as well. And then from there, like I had hope because I was like, this is the game state that actually Arsenal is probably going to score more on, because especially when the team wants a goal, Arsenal's going to be able to do it too. During that goal, Odegaard goes down injured, and he was struggling. I was wondering why he was staying on, but honestly, I think we couldn't really make any other substitutions, any more like good attacking substitutions at that point. So, yeah, he stays on. Saka comes on for Madueke right before the goal goes in. It's funny, my notes stopped because I'm so angry, and I stopped taking notes while I'm watching this game right after that substitution.
So I'll ask you a question.
Yeah.
How much XG do you think Arsenal generate when it goes 1-1?
When it goes 1-1, after it goes 1-1, like from there to the end of the game, I think we do a lot after. I think we only have that one shot from Martinelli. So like, I think less than 0.2 XG.
You're right.
Yeah.
In that period, you have one shot on target for 0.07 XG. And that's a good 20 minutes in the game.
Yeah.
From my perspective, like, they were the team that was in the ascendancy in that period. As soon as it goes 1-1, they only generate 0.23, but they have 4 shots. And one of those shots, Igor Thiago needs to do better with that. Like, Mosqueda fucks up a situation at the back. Granted, I think the recovery is sensational by Mosqueda, but like, he needs to do better with that. I think he felt like he had way more time than he did. That's only worth 0.05, but it would have been way better if he realized, like, I actually have less time here. But yeah, it's kind of, I think once it goes 1-1, from my perspective, I think Brentford are the stronger side. And I expect Arsenal to create more on the counter in that situation, but they just didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, I felt like they had the opportunity to create more of the counters. I think the one that just stands out the most is the last one.
Yeah.
Like, it was a good little flick through by Gyökeres. It goes up and above, and then Timber gets a good head on it, is running. He's not gonna it doesn't look like he's gonna beat his man. But then you have Martinelli coming up. Timber, maybe he could have done a little better with the pass, but honestly, if he put it any more central, I think Hermanson could have gotten it. Sorry, not Hermanson. What's his face?
Yeah, another goalkeeper. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, the goalkeeper could have gotten it. But then, like, Martinelli takes one touch outside. I think he's trying to drag a keeper wide and then take the shot in. I just feel like he should have taken it first time.
Agree.
Like the meme of you live in a mansion, you drive a car, BMW or better. Like, that's all that was going through my head. I was just like, oh, geez. Like, dude, just take a shot. Like,
I agree.
How many touches do you need for this? Like, even if you whiff it, even if you just try, like, something could happen. Maybe keeper gets it, it bounces off. Maybe it bounces right back to Timber and Timber gets it in. But like, yeah, it was just so frustrating. And as soon as that happened, I was like, yeah, that's game. Like, nothing else is going to happen in this.
And from that period of when kind of it does go 1-1, Arsenal do not play one ball successfully into the box. Barely even in the final third, which is like, come on, guys. I understand from Brentford's perspective. I think Brentford in that period were insanely aggressive, but for the most part, I think Arsenal were doing a good job in kind of like preventing what they were trying to do. But if you look at like the chalkboard in that period, they play some really dangerous passes into the box, which is dealt with really well by both Raya and the centre backs. Mm-hmm. But you want more from Arsenal in that period for me.
Yeah. Even in that period after that goal, if you look at chalkboard, the passes, like, it's still a horseshoe at this point. Still a horseshoe going around the box. It's not. Yeah, there's that one pass from Timber into Martinelli, but that's about it. Very, very late. There are some progressive passes in it from the midfield. Oh nope, that's Gyökeres putting the ball through to Timber.
Yeah.
But apart from that, like, not really a lot of it is working out for him. Yeah, I honestly, like, we needed this win. Still 4 points ahead of City, but like at the end of this game, it's just like, I can't do this one more year. I can't do this one more year. Is the only thing I could think of.
So let's get into this then. So let's go through the
Yeah,
title race roundup.
let's
So
do it.
Arsenal are still first despite dropping points today. They're currently 4 points ahead of Manchester City in second, who are Arsenal on 57 points, City are on 53 points. How are you feeling about the title race as a whole? Because it's definitely back on.
Yeah, it is. It really sucks. I mean, honestly, I think it's been on the entire time, just with who City are. Like
Yeah,
people who are like, "Oh yeah, Arsenal's
such
gonna
a
win this
valid
league."
point.
I don't like. Yeah, like I'm glad we're doing well, but I don't know if we have it in the bag, right? Like until it is mathematically impossible, I will not be like, "Yeah, we have this in the bag."
If you like, the big thing for me, and I think the turning point, not so much the turning point, but something that's really notable. If you look at Man City's bench, kind of just before they signed Gahey and Semenyo, it is barren, Ben. Like, it's awful. They're a bunch of kids. Now they're starting to get people returning from injury, and
Yeah.
they signed Gahey and Semenyo. I think, honestly, that makes almost all of the difference. Like, Diaz is back, so they've got like a relatively settled back four. I think they're kind of weak in fullback areas, personally,
Hmm.
but overall they're getting a bunch of players back. I think Kovacic is back this week. It's still on, and I agree with you in what you're saying. Like this is never going to be easy. It's just not. And ultimately, I think City they sign in January because they know that it is still on and there are still quite a few games left to play.
Yeah.
Let's review the next five for each of the teams. And what we're going to do then, guys, is come up with the points total that we think they'll each of the teams will get from the next five. So let's start with
Yeah.
City.
Sure.
So City's last game was a win against Fulham, an emphatic win, really easy on the day.
Mhm.
I've seen the highlights back, and Semenyo is brilliant in that game, honestly. But they beat them 3-0 at home. City's next five, Newcastle. What do you think about that? How do you how do you see them? Do you see them being in trouble? My argument is Newcastle are terrible away from home, which is a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. I don't think it's gonna be a troubling game for City. I think they're gonna win
Okay,
against Newcastle home.
Leeds away. So that's a tough game. I think Leeds are in a really good vein of form at the moment.
I think Leeds are in a really good vein of form. But anyone, if they play the right game, can win Leeds away. Arsenal won 4-0 Leeds away.
You're right. I would argue though Leeds are really good in the transition, and City does struggle with it, especially Leeds at home, kind of at Ellen Road. I think that's going to be a tough one, but I agree with you for the most part. Then they've got Forest away. I just think that's a routine win.
That's a routine win. Yeah.
West Ham at home.
I think that's a win. I mean, West Ham has been doing really good. They've had some crazy upsets, but I don't think West Ham's gonna win against City at home.
Routine win, probably. And then finally to cap off these five games, Palace away. No, Palace at home.
You know, this could be a draw if Palace does really well, but I don't like Palace has an okay defense. I think there's something going on culturally there that
Absolutely.
is impacting the overall game. So I think it could be a draw. It feels like a win. You know what? I'm just gonna say I'm gonna be pessimistic today. It's 15 points out of 5 for City.
So I do think there's a draw in there somewhere. But when I'm logical, I don't know where that comes from. So I'm probably going to say 15 too. Um,
Yeah,
so I'm going to note that down. I would say, did you see how Palace lost that game against Burnley?
I did. Yeah.
My God, man, so bad. Let's cover Arsenal. So obviously, last game, draw Brentford away. Arsenal on their next five, Wolves away. You expect Arsenal to do the business there, don't you?
Yeah, should be a win.
Spurs away.
You know what? I think we're gonna go in and we're gonna win Spurs away. I was actually joking about this. I was gonna say, as has been saving his form for Spurs away, so we can have three more goals there. So yeah, let's be a bit more positive here, Ben.
Okay,
I think
so
it's a win.
Chelsea at home.
Chelsea home is a win. I'm pretty
Oh,
confident about that.
okay. Brighton away.
No. I want you to say what you think about Chelsea at home.
I think you draw that game.
Okay. Brighton away. This game is almost lining up to the same way Brighton away was. No, Brighton home was a few years ago, 22-23, almost at the same time as well. And that's the game that decided the league for us that year. Um, I
They're not good
think
at the moment, Ben.
they're
Brighton.
not.
Hustler
They're
is
not.
under some trouble.
I know. I think I want to say it's a win.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it's a win.
And Everton at home to cap it off. Got to be a win, dude.
Has to be a win, but I feel like I think there's a draw here somewhere. Like I don't.
It's
It could be
Chelsea.
Chelsea. But I don't. I know Chelsea's been really good. I don't think it's going to be Chelsea. I think it's going to be something unexpected, like Everton home. It's going to be the draw. So I will say it'll be 13 points for Arsenal.
Okay, and I'm going to agree with you, but I think the draw comes from Chelsea. And so if this is correct, at the end of these next 5 games, they are 2 points behind, which is rough.
Yeah.
But, City haven't been what we expect them to be a lot of the time this year. They have dropped points in some silly games, so as an Arsenal fan, just kind of hope that happens. I think you can definitely beat Chelsea at home. But I don't know. I think whenever you've played Chelsea in the last year or two, they've kind of done pretty well and matched you physically. They have a really physical, energetic midfield. But I'm looking forward to that game. I think that's going to be a good game. So yeah, kind of at the end of that, then that would put Arsenal on 70 points and Man City on 68 points after these 5 games.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the race for top 5 then, shall we, Ben? Actually, you go into this one.
Yeah, of course. Top 5. I think right now we have Man United in 4th, Chelsea in 5th, and Liverpool in 6th. United 45 points, Chelsea 44, Liverpool 42. And we're talking about race for top 5 because this year top 5 gets you Champions League.
Yeah.
And all 3 of these teams really, really need Champions League
Definitely
next year. United coming with their form the last few weeks with Carrick and there have kind of jumped up into this surprisingly for me. I think Chelsea has always kind of been a team that was looking to get into top 5 this year, just with their depth and overall performing decently even before Liam got there. Maresca is a pretty decent manager, and I think he was going to do it. But the really surprising thing here is Liverpool in the race for top 5 right now, right?
It is.
Coming off that win.
And was 6th.
Yeah, and 6th. But at least you got that win.
Yeah, big.
So I think it's in there. I feel like where do you want to start? Do you want to start with? Let's start with Chelsea first.
Start with Chelsea. Burnley at home. Yeah. I think that's an obvious win.
Arsenal. We have you said this is going to be a draw.
I think it's
it's going to be a loss. So I think that's 0 points from them.
Villa away. I think that's a draw.
I think that's a draw. Yeah.
Newcastle home
win.
They beat them.
Yeah, Everton win. So what is that? 1, 2. I have 8 points on that,
and I've got 3, 4, 5, 8, 11 points. So Jack has 11 points. Ben has 13.
No, I have 8 points.
8 points. Fucking hell. Actually, hold on. So I think they beat Burnley for sure.
Yep.
And they draw with Arsenal. That's 4.
That's 4.
They draw with Villa. Yeah, that's 5. They beat Newcastle. Yeah, I think they end with 11 points. Where do you think they drop points here, actually? You really think 8 points?
Might not do my math right. So Burnley is 3. Arsenal is 0. Villa is, I think they draw with Villa, so that's 4. I think they beat
you're right.
Newcastle.
And Everton. So that's 10 points.
That's 10 points, yeah.
Okay.
I did math right.
I
think I thought they're going to do a draw against Everton, but yeah, I think they'll win against Everton.
So I think 11 for Chelsea in the next 5. Ben thinks 10. Let's do Liverpool. Yeah. So Forest away, I think we win that game.
Yeah, you win that game. West Ham home, I think you win that.
Me too. Wolves away, I think we win that game.
I think you win that.
Spurs, I don't know, dude. It depends how they end up doing well. I don't think we win 5 on the bounce. So I think there's a draw in here somewhere. I think the draw, believe it or not, is more likely to come from Forest than it is Spurs at home. So maybe I'm negative, but yeah, I just think there is a draw in here somewhere. I'm going to go with a win though still. So I'm going to go win, Wolves away, and Spurs at home, win, Brighton away, probably a draw, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I think Liverpool end up with 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 points.
Yeah.
How much do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would actually agree with that overall. I think there is one draw in there. I think it's 13 points.
And
Um,
then finally, Manchester United. So they have Everton away.
yeah, I think that's a win.
Okay, me too.
No, yeah. I think that's yeah. Everton haven't been super great right now.
Palace at home.
Um, Palace at home, I think, is gonna be a draw.
Okay. Newcastle away.
I think that's a win.
Wow. I think they draw or lose that game.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah. Newcastle at home are good, man. And like they have the type of marauding style that will trouble United. But
Yeah.
yeah, Everton I think they win. Palace I think they win. Newcastle I think they draw. Villa at home. Oh, that's a tough game, dude.
Man, I think they lose because at that point
Lose.
Villa, yeah, I have a feeling that Villa is going to be trying to get back into that title race that they're going to want. They're going to
I think they draw. I think they
they draw
draw.
that one.
And Bournemouth away, I think they beat Bournemouth away.
Okay.
So you've got Everton win, Palace
Yep.
draw,
Yep. For
Newcastle
a win. So that
7,
is 7.
Villa
I said that they're gonna. I'll say they'll draw that
8, and then
8.
Bournemouth win.
Yeah.
11
11.
points for them. I've got the first two wins, Everton, Palace. I think they get beaten by Newcastle at St James Park. So that's 6. I think they draw to Villa. That's 7, and I think they beat Bournemouth. So I think they get 10 points. So if this is the case, at the end of all of this, Manchester United end up on, where are we with the table? Manchester United end up with 50,
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea 55 or 56 points, depending on which one of us is correct. And then Chelsea end up with, let's take a look.
Same.
Same. Actually, it's
54, 50.
yeah, yeah, 54, 55. Bloody hell, that's tight. And then Liverpool end up with 45, 55. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
That's pretty close, isn't it?
It's still a race.
And the funny thing is, all of these teams, I think, still play one another. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a deciding factor as well. But yeah, I would be pretty happy if it ends up in that scenario because it was looking for a little bit like it was slipping away to a degree. But yeah, that's really the episode today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Anything else you want to add, Ben?
Yeah, there's actually one thing I want to add. 'Cause it's gonna make this really interesting. We did talk about the next 5 games, right?
Yeah.
And the 6th game for the title race roundup is Arsenal City. So
Mm,
if what we both think happens for Arsenal and City, Arsenal
2 points. Fuck. That's good. If it builds like that, that's going to be a crazy game.
Yeah.
Crazy game. I look
Oh
forward
wait,
to
no,
it,
I was
Ben.
wrong. Man, my bad. Sorry. I'm sorry, guys. It's the EFL Cup. It's not the Premier League.
Damn. Oh yeah, you played. Actually, I do think the EFL Cup is an interesting one because I think it kind of sets a bit of a tone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It shows.
So I'm looking forward to that game too.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game.
But yeah, that's really the episode today, guys. Hope you've enjoyed it as always. Kind of give us a subscribe on YouTube or a follow on Spotify. We have been way more consistent with these since the turn of the year. Anything else additionally to add, Ben, before we go?
No. I will see you guys next week. I'm very sad. I will continue to not be sad. Sorry if I was mopey this time around, guys. But you know what? I kind of know what it feels like to be Jack for the first half of the season now.
What, you've won 2 league titles in 5?
No, I meant being disappointed when our team goes, but still having to record.
Trust me, I know.
So yeah, that's more of it. So yeah, well, we'll see you guys next time around. Jack, thanks again for doing this with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Have a good one. We're out.
All right. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.